You know that odd feeling you get when you finish a TV show that you loved and you know it's the last episode you'll ever see of it, so it makes you feel sad, but at the same time, the show ended in such an incredibly good note and so perfectly that you also feel happy. It's just a weird feeling, but I think it's something that many fans will agree with me on. Hi guys, Carla here. So, I was going to talk about something else this week, but then I started binge watching season 6 of Major Crimes and I couldn't stop. And I literally just finished watching the very last episode. Season 6 is the last season of Major Crimes. So, the last episode that I just watched is actually the series finale. And I literally just watched it. I haven't even really been able to process much of it yet. I don't really know how to feel, so this video might be sort of a stream of consciousness type thing. But I do love this show so very much, and I want to take a moment to just express how much I love this show and how big it has been a part of my life for the last few years. So, in both sort of celebration and goodbye to the show, I just want to talk about it for this video. I'll try to keep it short. I don't really have much to say about the entirety of the series, so I hope it won't take a long time. I'm just gonna sort of talk about how I feel about the ending and the last season in general. But I hope this is something people are interested in. I know it might not seem like this usual type of geeky fare that I generally speak about on this vlog, but in my family we are also sort of, I wouldn't say that we are fans, but we tend to watch a lot of the procedural shows on TV, like police procedurals and other law enforcement official procedurals. Think of, you know, the CSIs, the Law and Orders, etc, etc. Mostly my mother watches them a lot, and I don't usually follow a lot of them, just a select few that I really like. But I do watch most of them when I'm with my mom and she's watching TV and I'm just around, so I will watch them with her. I don't actually follow them from the beginning to the end. But with some of them, like I said, I do. And one of those that I really loved was Major Crimes, which aired on TNT and just finished. The last episode aired a couple of weeks ago, actually. Before I go any further, there might be spoilers, so if you are watching Major Crimes, if you haven't yet watched the ending, or the last season, you know there will be spoilers, so just a warning.
Danger, Will Robinson! Danger! No, Will Robinson! Danger!
Major Crimes, it's funny because my mom loves The Closer, and The Closer is sort of the precursor show to Major Crimes. But I tend not to like The Closer as much for some reason. I don't find Brenda, the main character, as relatable or as I don't know, she doesn't grab my attention as much. I find her almost annoying at times. But my mom loves The Closer. So I would watch The Closer and I already kind of had an idea what these characters were like from The Closer. And then when The Closer spun off into Major Crimes, I started watching Major Crimes. And I started following it, and I really fell in love with this show more than I ever did with The Closer. And I think it might just be something about Mary McDonnell because I love her. She's an amazing actress. And I like the way she portrayed Sharon in that very observant manner. Like, Sharon was always looking around and measuring things as they happened instead of taking action right away, and I really like that. She wasn't show-offy about it, she just did her job and that's it. And I just really enjoyed Mary McDonnell's portrayal of Sharon Rader and the team and how it came together, because Major Crime starts off with this idea that the division is now going to be led by Sharon, who was coming from internal affairs and whom nobody in the department actually liked. It was kind of fun. Like, they all were very prickly around her. And add to that this whole thing with Rusty and having to bring him into the fold, how resistant he was to like everything. And going from that to how they literally became a family later on. It was a process that I love. I love found families. For me, those are so amazing. Always. And the way they all came together and the way they became so tight as a unit was something that I really, really appreciated. And, you know, the show, I think Major Crimes was one of the few shows that showed me that you don't need to have some, like, young, good-looking, hip cast in order to have a successful show these days. That as long as you have writing that is smart, that is funny, that is heartfelt, that is entertaining, you don't really need, like, good-looking young actors. You can have a slightly more mature cast and still have it, you know, be relatable. And it's kind of ridiculous because who in the hell would think that a young person would relate to Provenza? But he's just so funny and so cranky and so, like, bent over about his printer, and it's just, you gotta love him. You can't help but love him. And that's the same thing with all the characters too. And I really loved how this show balanced the characters' real lives with the characters' work lives, which is something really difficult because sometimes when shows start veering too much into their characters' personal lives, it feels a little bit forced, especially with procedurals, you know? Because you're supposed to be talking about a case and all of a sudden it's like, oh, let's go see what's happening in this person's life. And it's a little bit weird usually, but Major Crimes did it really well, partly because, you know, Rusty was just as much as he was Sharon's dependent, or her ward, and later on her son, he was also a victim. He was also a witness to a major crime. So I think they did it really well. And even with the other characters, how they involved the others' lives in very subtle ways a lot of the time. Like, for example, we saw a lot of Andy because, you know, he was Sharon's boyfriend and then husband. We saw a lot of, say, Julio because he was involved in a lot of the cases that they had, and, you know, his mother and then his son, and we saw a lot more of him. But we also got little glimpses of the others that were more than enough. I mean, there was Tao with his whole badge of justice thing, which came in really handy a lot of the time. We have Amy with her relationship with the guy from SIS whose name I can never remember. And of course Provenza with his new wife and everything. And even in the end with Nolan and Cammy, which I thought, I mean, they left it ambiguous, but you kind of know, you know? I've never read Major Crimes fanfiction, but after that ending, I'm feeling like I need to go and see if anybody has ever written anything about Cammy and Nolan, because I ship them. I'm sorry. I totally shipped him. Even if it came out of nowhere, like, all of a sudden he's, like, hitting on her and she's like, get off, dude. I don't know, by the end I thought there was something there, and I shipped them, and I want to see if anybody has actually written something for the two of them. I don't even know if there's Major Crimes fanfiction, honestly. Like, I tend not to, for most of my series, you know, Stranger Things not included, obviously, but for most of the shows that I write, I prefer not to read fanfic until the show is over, because I like to have, like, canon stuff. So I've never read any Major Crimes fanfic, but I think I'm going to now, because they left me with that little, you know, prick of curiosity there. I really loved season 6. I have to say that for Major Crimes, although they always did a good job with the overarching storyline for each season, I always felt that their best episodes were episodes that were in smaller arcs. Like when they did 4-parters or 3-parters, they did those very well. In season 6 was basically a bunch of those strung together. First we had 5 episodes, then we had 4, and then we had another 4, and that was the end of the season. And I think they did that very well, because those cases they took upon in this season were amazing. I thought this show was always good at dealing with relevant topics, especially when it came to immigration, given that the show was set in Los Angeles. I thought they were always very good at that, unlike other shows like, you know, SVU. Sometimes you watch an episode and it's like, oh, they're just doing their own version of this case that came up in the news a couple of months ago. You know, it's like very obvious. Major Crimes was a lot more subtle with that, and I really liked it, and I really liked the topics they covered in this season particularly, because they were dealing with immigration, they were dealing with the church, they were dealing with sexual harassment at the workplace, and rape, and feminism, and then of course in the last arc, the last sub-arc of the season, they came back full circle to Philip Stroh, who was basically the big bad of the entire series. I mean, that's how they started. Of course, that's how they had to end. And I really love it. I mean, Philip Stroh is one of the most chilling big bads of any of these procedural shows that I've ever seen. He's freaking chilling. He's so smart. He's always one step ahead of the police. Up until the very end, I guess. I love the way they took him down, the way that Rusty took him down in season, was it late season 3, I believe? In the courtroom. It's one of my favorite moments when, you know, they bring up the letters, and it's a moment I will never forget. It will stick with me forever, because it was like, yes, I cheered, it was so great. And then of course, you know, that couldn't be the end of him, so he had to come back, and I like that they brought him back for the very, very end of the show. I love that they brought back other characters we've seen in the past, like Emma Rios, which is kind of hysterical, because she was really annoying in the first 2 seasons of the show. She was like really annoying. I always figured that's why they kind of phased her out eventually, like she wasn't around, because she was impossible, that woman. And I find it funny that they brought her back in the last arc only to kill her because of course she couldn't just stick around. It was kind of funny, but I like that they brought her back. I love that they brought back Sharon's kids. Of course, I have to talk about Sharon's passing, because I knew it was coming, because I am a sucker for spoilers, and I had already seen on Twitter that she died. So I was ready for it. I thought she was going to die in the second to last episode, so I wasn't expecting it at the point where it happened, which was like right at the ending of the second arc of the season. So I still had 4 episodes to go, and I was like, whoa, this is really early, I wasn't expecting this. But I liked how they did it. When they started showing hints that she was sick, I was like, oh, really? Is this how they're gonna take her out? I thought it would be something more dramatic or something more abrupt, I guess. And, you know, a disease like this sort of felt like it came out of nowhere and that it went really fast. But by the time she died, I didn't even really mind, because I felt like they made it seem very human. You know? The way that she was, that she felt like she knew it might come, and she was still going to fight for her life, of course, but she also wanted to make sure that the people she loved were taken care of, the people of the Major Crimes Division were taken care of, and, you know, these people were her family, and she wanted to tell them that it was okay if she had to leave, that they would be fine, while still fighting for her life. And, you know, it was something very, very, very Sharon to do, because she was always the kind of person that had hope, but at the same time she was very realistic and down to earth about everything. So of course she would be that way about death. It made a lot of sense. It was heartbreaking for the people around her, say Andy and Rusty and her kids. It really was. And it was very touching. I like that she went out on the job, basically, even though she wasn't supposed to be working. But I liked that she went out on the job. I didn't think she should die in bed. I was expecting her to die in bed, but she didn't, and I was glad for that. I was glad that she didn't get the transplant after all, because, yeah, I was with her when she said, I don't want to take the heart from someone who could possibly have better odds of living. So, I like that. I liked how they wove together her faith, because her faith was important to her. And I thought it was very beautifully done, and a well-deserved send-off, because Mary McDonnell carried this show on her shoulders the entire time, but at the same time, you know, it gave the rest of the division a moment to shine on their own. Because sometimes you watch Provenza do his thing and you're like, there's no way this guy should lead the Major Crimes division if anything happens to Sharon. But then, you know, she dies and you see Provenza take over and you see, okay, yeah, this guy's, he's a pro. I mean, he's cranky and ridiculous, but he's a pro. He knows what he's doing. He cares about his people. And I thought it was great. I like that even after her death, she was still giving Rusty good advice, which he followed. I would have liked to see a little bit more of how Rusty did after killing Stro, but I like that he killed Stro. I think it had to be Rusty. For a point there, I thought it would be Andy. I'm glad it wasn't Andy. I feel like it had to be Rusty. And I love that Provenza covered for him. I really liked how they handled the Stro thing. I just really loved how it all came together in the end. It was really sweet, really heartfelt. I don't even know what to say. I'm still like emotional from watching it. You know, it's so strange that my show is over now and now I have to figure out what else, you know, to say about it. I really enjoyed it. I liked how Rusty's now, you know, set up to become a lawyer. I think that's important. I didn't want him to be a detective, so that's really good. I think being a lawyer is actually better for him because he will be the one to fight for justice for the people that need it, basically. And while, you know, cops do that also, lawyers are the ones that get sort of the final say, I guess, or the final opportunity. I hope I'm not the only one who is thinking that maybe he could be a judge in the future. I would love that. And I love that he seems to have gotten back together with Gus. Like, Gus and Rusty are such relationship goals. I'm just saying, like, I've shipped them from day one. They are adorable, and yeah, you know, if I had been Rusty, I probably wouldn't have forgiven Gus just because I'm resentful like that. But I like that they got back together. I like that Gus genuinely realized his mistake and apologized seriously for it. I like that he was there for Rusty when Rusty needed him, because Rusty needs someone. He shouldn't be alone. And I know that he has Andy, but it's not the same. Like, Sharon was the first person who truly saw him as someone important, someone you had to care for. And I feel that now that Sharon is gone, Rusty needs someone to sort of be there for him. Not necessarily to be a crutch for him, but just somebody there to make sure that he's happy and that he takes care of himself and that he remembers that he deserves to be cared for, like Sharon used to do. So I'm glad that they seem to have gotten back together. I hope that's what it means in the end, that their relationship was on the mend, at least. All of them, really. Like, I'm so curious about what's going on. I love that Julio got a promotion. It was so great, and I think it's a good idea because now he has a kid, and yeah, homicide is not a good department to be in when you have a young child who you have to live, who you have to, you know, sustain on your own. I would have liked to see Julio maybe get together with someone, but it doesn't matter. Yeah, I think his ending was really great. I love that Buzz is going to be a detective. I was so happy for him. And just like him actually like trying to bust the door open, and Provenza's like, maybe do it better next time, and he's like, maybe you should do it the next time. They're so great, and I love that Buzz is going to be a detective, because when he got his reserve officer certification, I cheered. Because I'm like, yeah, Buzz needs to, like, actually be in this team for good. And I'm so glad that Provenza now convinced him to actually become a detective and be a part of the group now that Julio's moving up in the world. And I wish I had more time with the squad to know what happened to them, like what happened to Nolan and Cammy, and what's up with Amy. Is she actually getting married at some point? And Tao, I would have loved to see more of Tao's family. We never got to see a lot of him. I love him so much, and I'm so happy that they had such a great ending. And you know, you felt the presence of Sharon there, even at the very end. We only saw her for like 2 out of the 4 episodes of the last arc, but I don't think we need to see her again. I think her presence was felt in the group, so I really love this ending. I really love the last arc as a whole. Like, Dylan was just so funny. Like, I shouldn't be laughing at this asshole of a person, and a criminal, and a child molester, but he was funny. Like, he's every stereotype you assume of these, like, hacker people, and I know that not all of them are like that, but I like the idea that Stro used these kinds of people, and yet these kinds of people sort of also manage to, you know, get something on him, I guess. I like the idea of the kill of the Dead Man's Switch. Very lost of them, even though I can't imagine that Stro wasn't aware of it. I think it was part of his plan to have them distracted while he went onto the boat. Luckily for him, unluckily for him, Rust is smarter than that, so I really like the idea of the boat. Like, I knew as soon as we saw that blonde woman, Bechtel woman, that she was going to end up dead, because it's Stro and he kills every blonde woman in this show apparently. But I really liked how they wrapped everything up. It made sense the way they wrapped everything up, and I just want to take a second to congratulate everybody on the Major Crimes team on TNT. This was a great show. It wasn't a flashy show like a lot of the procedurals are. Like, you need explosions, you need more guns and shots and that kind of stuff. This show was very down to earth. It was more about thinking and figuring things out, and then finding a way to find a deal with these people in order to make justice come quicker. And I really enjoyed that they stayed true to that until the end. I'm gonna miss this team. I'm really gonna miss them. I hope to God that there's fanfic out there, because I need a fix. Honestly, I love this show so much. I'm gonna miss this team, and I'm just so grateful to everybody at TNT and the production companies who made this show possible, because it's one of my favorite shows of all time. And I'm both sad and happy that it's over, but that at least it went over in the best way possible, and with the team as united as I always hoped they would be in the end. So I guess that's it. Thank you, TNT and the Major Crimes team, and, you know, the whole cast. I love you guys so much. I hope you have tons and tons of opportunities in the future, because you did a heck of a job with this show, and it will always be part of my life. It will always have a special place in my heart, and I'm really happy that it ended in such a great note, and it just felt like the perfect ending. So thanks for that. And yeah, okay, before I start crying, I guess that's all I want to say today. I've been trying to keep it short, so I'm just gonna shut up now. As usual, if you watch Major Crimes or any other procedurals, comment and let me know what you think. And, you know, even if it's not a geeky thing, I would love to talk about my favorite shows. with you guys, so feel free to comment while you're in there if you have any suggestions for topics that you'd like me to talk about in the future. If it's anything I know, if it's anything I have any knowledge about, I will make sure to add it to my list of videos to record in the future. So please drop it in a comment, any suggestions that you have. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. If you like my stuff, please subscribe to my channel. I'm always happy to see people watching and commenting and sharing and liking and subscribing. It really does help me. You know, those darned YouTube algorithms. I always do a little bit better if you like and share and subscribe. So just thank you for doing that. In the meantime, you can find me on social media. I am on Twitter and Instagram at girlsareweird with underscores between the words, and I am on Tumblr at girlsareweird with hyphens between the words. You can find a Facebook page for this vlog at facebook.com/FreakingNarnia, and as usual, be sure to visit my main website at FreakingNarnia.com. All my videos are up there in case you missed anything and want to catch up. That's where you should go. If you need any proofreading, I have professional proofreading services, so be sure to visit FreakingNarnia.com/proofing for my rates and all my contact information. I would love to help you make your written project as good as it can possibly be. And I also remember that I also have a Redbubble store where I make art based on my favorite quotes for my favorite fandoms, and then you can use that art to print on tons of merchandise such as t-shirts, coffee cups, computer covers, bags, all sorts of neat stuff. So be sure to stop by and maybe purchase something if you're in the mood. It really does help me a lot. I want to take just a second to mention the passing of Stephen Hawking, who is one of the greatest scientists of my lifetime. He lived much longer than science gave him credit for, I guess. He was given 2 years to live because of his disease like ages ago, and yet he lived until today. He actually died on Pi Day, so that's a coincidence I don't really buy. But I just want to take a second to recognize what a loss this is, not just for science but for humanity, and he will always be remembered as one of the greatest. And yeah, I guess that's it for me today. I will see you guys next week with another video from all the way in freaking Narnia. Bye! Think the CSIs, as long as you have a show, as long as you have smarting. First we had 6, they were dealing right before the I just really love